What is up, everybody? Welcome to DFS by the Numbers. These are my full card breakdown and predictions for UFC Vegas 91. We got Matheus Nicolau going against Alex Perez.
I need all the wins, yeah. Harder than all that is. You better move, you might get knocked out. Knocked out. You better move, you might get knocked out. Knocked out. You better move, you might get knocked out. Knocked out.
And we are back for another full card breakdown and prediction video. We are back in the Apex here for UFC Vegas 91, coming off of a week off and coming off of a phenomenal UFC 300 card. So it's going to be kind of tough to go from UFC 300 to this card, but no, I like it. I think it's a good card. I think if you like violence, you're going to like this card. This is a card full of very violent fighters. Leang has a 100% finish rate. Ryan Spann, Bogdan Guskov, both very good finishers. Karina Silva, a 100% finish rate. Uros Medic, a 100% finish rate. We have Janata, Denise, and Austin Lane, both with 100% finish rates. So if you like violence and if you like watching fights on Saturday, you know this is going to be a good card, I think. So yeah, definitely looking forward to breaking it down. Before we do so, if you guys could leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you have not already. Getting really close to 25,000 subscribers. So if we can hit that in the near future, that would be awesome. And then a couple of shout outs. I did the Significant Strike contest 2 weeks ago for UFC 300, and I said I would give prizes to the top 3, and if you got it on the dot, I would double the prize and throw in a shirt. Nobody got it on the dot, but there were 3 guys that were one away, very close. So the correct answer for Significant Strikes between Jamal Hill and Alex Pereira was 36. Shout out to X Splav. He guessed 37, was able to hit him up and give him his winnings. I mean, this is a guy that I've been talking on Discord with for a while, so it was nice to see him win. The next guy is Jacob Milson, who I recognize as well. 35 Significant Strikes was his guess. He was one away as well, so got him his winnings. And then lastly was the Carrillo 37, which was one away as well. Carrillo, if you could hit me up on Twitter or Instagram with your PayPal or Cash App, I'll get you your winnings. But he was the only guy I was not able to get a hold of. But hopefully you see this. And then I'll be shouting out. I did some other contests for some other videos as well. I'll shout those out later in the week. But yeah, shout out to those 3 guys. All 3 were one away. And then other than that, I do want to shout out PrizePicks. This video is brought to you by PrizePicks. If you guys want to use promo code DFSBTN, you'll get a 100% deposit match up to $100. And then also do want to shout out DFSbythenumbers.com. That's where you'll find all my other content throughout the week, articles, bets, stats, you name it. Check it out on DFSbythenumbers.com. And with all that out of the way, I say we get into it. It feels good to be back. And we're going to start with the first fight of the card, and I'm assuming they're going to change this bout order, but as of now, we got Machado going against Gabriel Benitez. We got Machado, 24 years old, 6 foot with a 71.5-inch reach, 9-3, and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Gabriel Benitez, he's 35 years old, 5'8", with a 71-inch reach, 23-11, and 2-3 in his last 5 fights. We'll take a look at the odds. Machado opened up minus 300. He's currently minus 190, and then Gabriel Benitez opened up plus 250. He's currently plus 165. So this is kind of a tricky fight for me because I feel like minute for minute this fight's going to play out pretty close and competitively. It's just, you know, with Machado, you have a guy that is 11 years younger. Like, that cannot be ignored. You have a guy in Machado who's going to be much taller as well, just a much bigger dude in this matchup. I think Machado is probably even the more durable guy as well. You know, Gabriel Benitez has been finished several times. I think his durability as of late has not looked that great. And then I was kind of looking through the record of Gabriel Benitez, and I was looking at his last couple wins, and his last 3 wins include Charlie Ontiveros, who is exciting, don't get me wrong, but Charlie Ontiveros will never win a fight in the UFC. He went 0-3, and I believe got cut, unfortunately. The next win was Justin James. That's a throwback name, who went 1-4 in the UFC, got cut. The guitar hero, Justin James. And then the win before that was Humberto Bondinai, who also went 1-3 in the UFC. So those are his last 3 wins since, 2018? At this point, he's now 36 years old, 35 years old. He's taken a ton of damage. He hasn't looked that great as of late, you know, coming off that loss to Jim Miller, which isn't the worst loss in the world. But, you know, I just feel like at some point, Machado is going to land a big shot that changes this fight, that probably finishes this fight. So I'm leaning Machado by knockout. But like I said, I think Benitez can hang in there for a little bit. I think it could be semi-competitive, but I think at some point, Machado is going to land that big shot and end the fight. So I'll say Machado wins this fight. I'll take him to win by 2nd round knockout. I like the power, the youth, the size, and I'll take him to get it done. All right, next we have, it's weird they put the main event on the second fight, but we have my favorite fighter in the world, Leang going against Ivana Petrovic, and I got to do it. I got to put it on for a couple reasons. For one, it was $20. This wig was $20, and for two, I feel like this might be the last time we see Leang. So I've got to put the wig on. Got to get my money's worth while I break down this fight. So we got Ivana Petrovic, who is, I can't see. I don't know how Leang does it. I can't see. She's 29 years old, 5'8" with a 71-inch reach, 6-1 and 4-1 in her last 5 fights. Leang, she's 27 years old, 5'5" with a 67-inch reach, 19-7 and 2-3 in her last 5 fights. We have the biggest favorite on the card here. Ivana Petrovic opened up -225. She's currently -560. And Leang opened up +190. She's currently +410. So like I said, I'm a big fan of Leang. If you guys want to check videos of me singing in this wig out, go to my Twitter, DFS_numbers. I did a spin-off of Hey There Delilah, Hey There Leang. It's pretty good, so check that out. But yeah, I've always been a fan of Leang. It was her first fight with Ariana Conor-Losi. It was the first fight back with fans, and it was just the first fight of the night. It was electric. It was back and forth, and at the end of the first round, she was just spent. She could not get up. Her cornerman had to come and pick her up and drag her to the corner. She came out in the second round and got finished, and I'm just a big fan of Leang. She's a fighter with a 100% finish rate. She's about as kill or be killed as you can get, and she's going against Ivana Petrovic, who was actually an underdog against Luana Carolina, and I cashed on Petrovic as an underdog, and it's weird seeing her as this big of a favorite, but I think that's probably because it's just hard to imagine Leang beating anybody in the UFC. With that said, though, Leang, I think, has shown some improvements. That Aldrich fight, she was able to get multiple takedowns. She was really close to taking the back of Aldrich, but got reversed. And the problem with Leang is just she can't battle any adversity. Like, when the going gets tough, she looks for the door. She has 7 losses. I think 6 of them have come inside the distance. So Ivana Petrovic, although I don't think she's that great, if she does survive the first couple minutes, if she does get top position, she's going to just pound away and get a TKO or find the sub. So unfortunately, I got to pick against my girl, and I'm going with Ivana Petrovic to win this fight by second round TKO. I hope the UFC resigns her. She's going to be 0-3 or 0-4, but she's exciting. Like, I've never seen a boring Leang fight. I don't think this is going to be any different, but yeah, I'm taking Petrovic just to win this fight by second round knockout. And the wig is coming off, and probably for the last time. Unfortunately. All right, now we got to talk about this fight. We got Ketlen Souza going against Marnik Man. We got Ketlen Souza, 28 years old, 5'3" with a 63-inch reach, 13-4 and 4-1 in her last 5 fights. Marnik Man, 31 years old, 5 foot with a 64-inch reach, 6-2 and 3-2 in her last 5 fights. We have another really big favorite here. Ketlen Souza opened up -200. She's currently -325. Marnik Man opened up +170. She's currently +275. So I don't know what to do with this fight because, Marnik Man, she has a path to victory here. Ketlen Souza, I think she has a big hole in her game, and that big hole in her game is going to be the ground game. We've seen her taken down, not only in her debut against Karina Silva, where she got taken down and submitted instantly. Like, she can be taken down. She can be held down. And that kind of worries me here because, in theory, Marnik Man might be able to get takedowns. It's just on the feet, I think it's one-way traffic. I actually really didn't mind the striking of Ketlen Souza. She's just going to come forward. She's going to throw a lot of volume. She has really good cardio. She's really tough as well. There's some things I did like seeing out of Ketlen Souza. And with Marnik Man, she has some wrestling, some grappling, but she's still making a lot of mistakes on the mat. I went back and watched some of her fights, and she was getting reversed. She was getting put into bad spots on the mat. She was submission over position. It just wasn't the best looks. And I think Souza's takedown defense is improving. You go back and watch some of her fights earlier in her career, she's getting taken down and held down easily, but watch some of her recent fight, she is doing a better job at stuffing takedowns, and I think that's something she's probably putting a big emphasis on. And if she's able to keep this fight on the feet, it's just going to be one-way traffic. But even if Man does get a takedown here or there, the way that these fights are getting judged lately, damage over control, like, I don't see Man, even if she gets takedowns, doing much on the ground, whereas on the feet, I think Souza's going to put kind of a beat down on Man. So I'm going Ketlen Souza here. I'm taking her to win by decision. The money line's ridiculous at -325, but I think she wins. Moving on to the worst fight on the card, we got Kyle Machado going against Dantel Mays. We got Kyle Machado, 29 years old, 6'4", with a 78-inch reach, 8-1 and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Dantel Mays, 32 years old, 6'6", with an 81-inch reach, 10-6 and 2-2 and 1 no contest in his last 5 fights. We'll take a look at the odds. They opened up at a pick'em, minus 110 each way, probably where they exactly should be, but Kyle Machado went to an underdog after that. And then since then, Kyle Machado is now the favorite. He's minus 130, and Dantel Mays is now a plus 110 underdog. So, yeah, this is a really weird fight because Kyle Machado's a guy that, I remember watching his fight with Kevin Silvarsky on the Contender Series, and it was just the worst fight I've ever seen in my life. I mean, Kevin Silvarsky, it was more so Silvarsky didn't really show up, but still, it was a terrible fight. I was shocked that Dana White signed him, but he did. And then he makes his debut against Mick Parkin, right? And he's a pretty big underdog, but he actually looked pretty decent in that fight. And I don't want to say arguably won, but I mean, he outstruck Parkin pretty much in every single round. It was just Parkin was able to get some control, win some minutes, but, it was Kyle Machado, doing the better work on the feet against Mick Parkin, which was very impressive because Parkin's not a terrible striker. Kyle Machado actually outlanded Mick Parkin 76-39. Like that's very impressive. And even in the Silvarsky fight, where Silvarsky literally did not show up, he only landed 17 strikes. Machado landed 121. So it's not too often you get big heavyweights who can go out there and land 100 plus significant strikes. But Kyle Machado is that guy. He's very active. He's quick. He's gonna be quicker in this matchup for sure. So yeah, I like the striking of Kyle Machado, but the one thing that does worry me, what worries me is the ground game. Kyle Machado, I think he's a black belt, but we saw Mick Parkin take him down 3 times, control him for 6 minutes, and ultimately that's what won Mick Parkin the fight. If Parkin was not able to get those takedowns, it would have been a pretty easy decision in favor of Kyle Machado, but he was taken down, he was held down. The question is Dantel Mays going to come out there and do that? And I'm not sure. Dantel Mays is averaging less than 1 takedown per 15 minutes, and you take a look through his entire UFC career, there's really evidence of him going out there and being D1 Dantel Mays just once, and that fight was against Josh Parisian, which probably shouldn't count, to be honest, but he went out there against Josh Parisian and landed 6 takedowns, which that's great, but other than that, the most takedowns he's landed in a fight was 1. And that was against Royk Martinez. And come to think of it, there's only been 2 fights in the UFC where he's actually landed 1 takedown. So, assuming that, Dantel Mays is going to come out here and wrestle, I think some people are going to be disappointed. Because I'm not sure if he does. And even if he does, is he going to have success taking down and holding down Kyle Machado? Kyle did do a decent job in terms of getting back up against Mick Parkin. So, I like Machado here. I think the line movement is probably warranted, but at the end of the day, this is a sloppy heavyweight fight that's going the distance, and the judges are probably going to get it wrong, like always. But I'm going Machado here. I'm going Machado to win by decision. I think he's the better striker, more volume, much quicker, and ultimately wins this fight by decision. But it could get greasy. It's a Dantel Mays fight. Moving on. We have the most apex fight of all time in Michael Figl going against Austin Hubbard. We got Michael Figl, 27 years old, 5'10", with a 70-inch reach, 8-1 and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Austin Hubbard, 32 years old, 5'10", with a 71-inch reach, 15-7 and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Let's take a look at these odds. So it was Figl actually opened up plus 130. He's now the favorite, minus 155. Austin Hubbard opened up minus 150. He's now the dog at plus 135. And, going back and watching Figlak's last fight, which was a pretty long time ago. Figlak went out there in his debut against Fares Ziam. That was back in September of 2022. So about a 1.5 year layoff, which is, it's concerning, but at the same time, I kind of like when these younger fighters, take a 1.5 years off and, make improvements. Because if you're getting, beat by Fares Ziam the way he did, you better take some time off and improve. And if he does come back here and improved, maybe he does come out here and look like a whole different fighter. But, I think he's probably better than what he showed in the Ziam fight, but I can't get that Ziam fight out of my head. He made Fares Ziam look like Bo Nickel out there. I mean, Fares Ziam was taking this guy down. He was out scrambling him. He was out grappling him. Fares Ziam was getting him in some bad spots. Fares Ziam's a kickboxer, and like I said, he looked like Bo Nickel just taking this guy down. controlling. It was a horrible look, just a terrible look. So I think Figl is better than what he showed, but I'd be lying if I said I'm not extremely concerned about him getting out-grappled by kickboxer far as I am. And Austin Hubbard, although he's not the best wrestler or grappler in the world, he's a decent wrestler. He's a decent grappler. I think he's either a brown belt in BJJ, maybe a black belt at this point. But yeah, he's kind of decent everywhere. Austin Hubbard's a decent striker, decent grappler, decent wrestler. He's not really great anywhere outside of maybe durability and cardio are probably his best attributes, and those have won him some fights in the UFC. So I think Austin Hubbard, in theory, has a path to victory. Like, as far as I am's taking you down, Austin Hubbard can as well. But, there hasn't been a ton of fights where Austin Hubbard's going out there and implementing that game plan. Kyle Prepolek, back in 2019, Hubbard was able to go out there and take him down 3 times. And then against Vince Pichel a couple years ago, Hubbard was able to take down Pichel 4 times, but wasn't able to hold him down. I think it's a close fight. I think we might see a new improved version of Figl, and for that reason, I kind of want to stay away here. But I'm going to pick the dog in Hubbard to go out there, make this close, mix in some takedowns, and ultimately win a decision in this one. So give me Austin Hubbard by decision. Moving on, we have Victor Henry going against Ronnie Yahaya. We got Victor Henry, 36 years old, 5'7", with a 68-inch reach, 23-6. And 3-1-1 no contest in his last 5 fights. Ronnie Yahaya, 39 years old, 5'6", with a 68-inch reach, 28-11-1, and 2-2-1 in his last 5 fights. We have Victor Henry opening up minus 650. He's currently minus 500. Ronnie Yahaya opening up plus 475, currently plus 375. And you guys know how I feel about liars. Ronnie Yahaya's not 39 years old. I mean, maybe add like 20 years to that, and I think you'll get the correct age of Ronnie Yahaya. I mean, this guy's not 39. I mean, this guy looked 39 maybe 20 years ago. But he's still going out there. He's still competing, and he's still winning some fights outside of his last fight against Montel Jackson. But we have Victor Henry here as a pretty big favorite, and I think it's because it's a pretty tough matchup for Ronnie Yahaya here. Ronnie Yahaya, his wrestling's actually not terrible. Like, if he can get you down, you stay down. He's a 5th degree black belt in BJJ. He's incredible on the ground. It's just, again, he's 39. He's like 50, 60 years old at this point. I don't think the cardio's ever been that great. I don't think he has the wrestling to take down Victor Henry, because Victor Henry does have pretty good takedown defense. Victor Henry does have really good grappling in his own right, and I think he has really good cardio as well. And then on the feet, it's just not even competitive. It's going to be Victor Henry all day. So, yeah, should be Victor Henry. It's just, does he finish Ronnie Yahaya, or does he win by decision? And I'm actually kind of leaning decision, because Ronnie Yahaya, although getting knocked out by Montel Jackson in his last fight, he is very durable. Ronnie Yahaya, the last time he was finished prior to the Montel Jackson fight was back in 2009 against Joseph Benavidez, and he's had a ton of fights since then. So Ronnie Yahaya, he is still very durable. I think Henry stuffs the takedowns, keeps him to the feet, pushes the pace, and just lands a lot more in this fight. So you give me Victor Henry to win this fight. I'll take him to win this fight by decision. Moving on, we got Uros Medic going against Tim Means. We got Medic, 31 years old, 6'1", with a 71-inch reach, 9-2, and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Tim Means, 40 years old, 6'3", with a 75-inch reach, 33-15-1, and 2-3 in his last 5 fights. We got another big favorite on this card in Uros Medic. He opened up as a minus 200 favorite. He's currently minus 300. We got Tim Means opening up plus 170. He's currently plus 250. And, yeah, this should be a fun fight. This is an Uros Medic fight. Uros Medic has not seen the distance yet, and I don't really think that changes here. Uros Medic did lose his last fight to my titty back, Oral Ball, or whatever his name is, Oral By. His last fight, we'll see him next week for UFC 301. No shame in that. I think Oral By is a very good fighter. Prior to that, he did beat Matthew Semmelsberger by 3rd round spinning back fist, which was nice, and then he knocked out Omar Morales in the 2nd round prior to that. So, yeah, I was actually really impressed with that. Let's go back to that Semmelsberger fight. That was a very eye-opening performance for Uros Medic, and here's why. He took that fight on short notice match, like pretty short notice, like a week's notice against Semmelsberger, right? And then it was actually Medic that was showing the better cardio in that matchup. It was kind of cool to see. He got hurt a couple times early on, but was able to battle through some adversity. He took the fight to the third round and landed a big shot in the third round and finished Matheus Semmelsberger. So to see Uros Medic go that deep into the fight and still carry that power, that's a good thing to have. In this matchup against Tim Means, he's going to be 9 years younger, and I think this is a guy in Uros Medic who's just getting better, whereas Tim Means, this is going to be his 50th fight, as far as I'm concerned, in terms of, MMA. Like 50 fights for Tim Means. He's taken a ton of damage, especially as of late. This is a guy in Tim Means who used to be extremely durable, and I think at one point, like, he had never been knocked out up until that Nico Price fight. Nico Price knocked him out, and then since then, his durability has been, like, iffy, like, in a bunch of fights. Like, Daniel Rodriguez hurt him multiple times in that fight, ended up getting the club and sub by guillotine in the second round. There was the fight with Kevin Holland. Kevin Holland dropped him bad in the second round, locked up the Darce choke. Alex Morono clubbed and subbed him, and then even Max Griffin knocked him down. So, yeah, Tim Means is a guy that's getting hurt in a lot of fights as of late. He's only getting older. He's only taking more damage. And I think, Medic probably goes out there and knocks him out or gets the club and sub. Because a lot of times it means he's not getting knocked out. He is getting subbed, but he's getting hurt prior to those, submission losses. So he'll get hurt. He'll shoot in, and maybe Medic can snatch up a neck here. But, yeah, I just think Medic, he has so much power. Like, went back and watched that Omar Morales fight, and what he did to Omar Morales was very impressive because Omar Morales, not the best fighter in the world, but what he is super durable, and he landed a couple big shots and put him out, and I think he lands some big shots here and puts out the 40-year-old in Tim Means. So I'm going Medic, and I think it's probably early as well. I'm going Medic to win this fight by first-round knockout. Moving on, we have a very fun fight. We got Jonathan Pierce going against David Onama. We got Jonathan Pierce, 31 years old, 6 foot, with a 71-inch reach, 14-5 and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. David Onama, 29 years old, 5'11" with a 74-inch reach, 11-2 and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. We got Jonathan Pierce opening up minus 150, currently minus 180. David Onama opening up plus 130, currently plus 155. And yeah, this fight's awesome. It's a Jonathan Pierce fight. I like watching his fights. I like the style that he brings to the table, the pace he pushes. I actually picked Joe Anderson Brito in his last fight, though. I picked Brito to win the fight. I bet Brito to win in rounds 1 or rounds 2, and that bet was looking dead up until, Brito snatched up Pierce's neck. Like, almost, the second round was almost, I feel like it was like a minute left in that fight. And it was funny, Jonathan Pierce was standing on top of Brito, and he was like, do something, boy, get up, boy, something like that. And then Brito gets up and gets like a ninja choke. It was funny to see. But prior to that, Jonathan Pierce was on one heck of a roll. I mean, he was on a 5-fight winning streak, the majority of those coming by finish. And Jonathan Pierce is a guy that just wrestles. He breaks you down, and then he finishes you typically in the second or third round or cruises to a dominant decision. And I think it's a tough matchup here for Onama. Like, I like Onama just as much as everybody else, but I mean, he's a 45% takedown defense. Nate Landwehr was able to take him down 3 times, and then more disturbingly, Mason Jones was able to take him down 8 times. Like, that's not good. Like, Jonathan Pierce should have no trouble taking down David Onama here at will. Rinse and repeat, and there's a big difference between like a Nate Landwehr on top of you, where I think Nate Landwehr really let Onama off the hook in that fight, and Mason Jones did as well. Like, if Jonathan Pierce gets on top of you, he's not going to let you breathe. He's going to be landing strikes. He's going to be getting into dominant positions, and I think he does eventually finish David Onama in that second or third round. If David Onama is able to stuff the takedowns here, he probably does knock out Jonathan Pierce. It's just, I struggle to see him stuffing those takedowns. So I think Pierce is going to get his game going early, the takedowns early, the ground strikes early, and I think eventually he's going to break down and finish Onama. I'll say second round submission for Jonathan Pierce. All right, moving on. We got Janata Denise going against Austin Lane. We got Denise, 32 years old, 6'4" with a 79.5-inch reach, 6-0 and 5-0 in his last 5 fights. Austin Lane, 36 years old, 6'6" with an 80-inch reach, 12-4 and 3-1-1 no contest in his last 5 fights. We have Denise opening up minus 350, currently minus 235, and then Austin Lane opening up plus 285, currently plus 200. This is one of those fights where it's like, I'm not sure why the line is kind of where it's at in terms of, I kind of think it should be wider, but, you know, I don't know if people are thinking that Austin Lane's going to wrestle, because that would be like the one thing. Like Denise, this is a guy that only has 6 MMA fights. He does have a big kickboxing background, so he's an experienced fighter, but in terms of the ground game, we haven't seen anything of his ground game. I mean, you go back and watch his fights outside of the Contender Series, and he is stuffing some takedowns, but against like some nobodies. If Austin Lane can get takedowns here, this fight gets very interesting very quickly, but you know, I'm not sure if he's going to be able to, or if he's even going to try, you know? Austin Lane is more of a striker. He's a big, long, rangy guy, 6'6", 80-inch reach. But the striking defense is very questionable. He leaves that chin up in the air. The chin's very questionable. He has 4 losses. All 4 of those come by knockout. Austin Lane has 16 fights. All 16 have finished inside the distance. I think it's probably a setup fight here for Denise. Like, Denise is the guy that he's very fun to watch because he comes forward and he just throws bombs. I mean, he just comes forward, tries to take your head off, and I think that's probably what happens here. But again, like Austin Lane, in theory, if he can get on top here, like this fight gets interesting. It's just I'm not sure he does. So I like Denise here. I think he has a ton of power. I think Austin Lane's too hittable. I think Denise marches forward and finishes his fight in the first round. It's going to be Denise by first round knockout. Next, we have a very fun fight here. I see why they put it on the main card. We got Karina Silva going against Ariana Lipsky. We got Silva, who is 30 years old, 5'5" with a 67-inch reach, 17-4 and 5-0 in her last 5 fights. Lipsky, 30 years old, 5'6" with a 67-inch reach, 17-8 and 4-1 in her last 5 fights. Karina Silva opened up about a pick'em, but Karina Silva did go to dog money for a while last week, and now she's a favorite, and the line just seems to keep getting wider. She's currently sitting at -155, and Lipsky's currently sitting as a +135 underdog. And this is a very tough fight to call because I'm high on both these fighters, and I think both these fighters have looked incredible as of late. Like Ariana Lipsky, you go back and watch some of her past fights, and there's some terrible looks. Like, you know, getting brutally TKO'd by Montana De La Rosa is just unacceptable. That was De La Rosa's first knockout win ever. Getting brutally TKO'd by Antonina Shevchenko is just so unacceptable, but you know, that was back in 2020. Getting knocked out by Priscilla Cachoeira, it's not the worst look, but it's also not the best. Like, I mean, Priscilla's not that great. I'm a big fan of Priscilla. So anytime, you know, the fight hits the mat, you know, Ariana Lipsky is in a lot of trouble against fighters like Montana De La Rosa and Antonina Shevchenko. What the heck is going to happen if Karina Silva gets this fight down to the mat? I mean, if she gets the fight down to the mat, it is a wrap. Like, if you're Ariana Lipsky, the floor is lava in this matchup. But with that said, Ariana Lipsky's done an incredible job at keeping the fight standing as of late. Against J.J. Aldrich went 0 for 12 on takedowns. Is that impressive? Kinda. It is J.J. Aldrich. But yeah, 0 for 12 on takedowns. Melissa Gatto, 0 for 7 on takedowns. That's 0 for 19 in the last 3 fights. Casey O'Neill, 0 for 2 on takedowns. That's 0 for 21 in her last 3 fights. She has a 100% takedown defense in her last 3 fights. And if that continues here, she could win this fight. You know, Lipsky's a very good striker, very dangerous, very powerful. But like I said, if Karina is able to get this fight down to the mat, she's going to make it look easy. I mean, Lipsky made Montana De La Rosa and Antonina Shevchenko look like, you know, Hamzat Chimaev against like John Phillips. I mean, it was bad. And Karina Silva's ground game is no joke whatsoever. But even if this fight doesn't hit the mat, like on the feet, is Lipsky the better striker? I'd say so, but Karina Silva has a ton of power. Karina Silva hurts fighters on the feet. She really hurt Marina Moroz on the feet. Looked like she really hurt Poliana Patelio on the feet. So even if she's not able to get the takedown, she'll probably get the knockdown, because Lipsky doesn't have the best chin, I don't think. Like, Lipsky's been knocked out 4 times. We saw Priscilla hurt her and knock her out in 1 minute. Yeah, although Lipsky's been looking good, it's really hard for me to pick against Karina Silva. I just see Karina Silva getting this fight down to the mat at some point, whether it's a takedown, whether it's a knockdown, getting on top and pretty much destroying Lipsky. So I like Karina Silva here. I like Karina Silva to actually give Lipsky her first submission loss. Lipsky has 4 losses by knockout, but I think it's sub. I think it's Karina Silva to win this fight by first round submission. Moving on, We got the co-main event, and sorry guys for the jump scare. I mean, Bogdan Guskov is a terrifying looking guy. I mean, that kind of scared me myself. But yeah, we got Ryan Spann going against Bogdan Guskov. We got Ryan Spann, 32 years old, 6'5" with an 81.5-inch reach, 21-9, and 2-3 in his last 5 fights. Guskov, 31 years old, 6'3" with a 76-inch reach, 15-3 and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Ryan Spann opened up -255, currently -200. Guskov opened up +215, currently +170. And this is an interesting fight to break down because skill for skill, it's not even close. I mean, Ryan Spann is so much more skilled than Bogdan Guskov. Like, it's not even debatable. I mean, in every area. I mean, on the ground, it's, you know, the biggest discrepancy you'd ever see. Ryan Spann's a very, very good grappler, a very dangerous grappler, and Bogdan Guskov is not. He got submitted by Volkan Oezdemir. Even on the feet, Ryan Spann's a big dude, big reach with a ton of power. And Guskov has a ton of power as well, but Guskov's very hittable, and you know, it's hard to not imagine Ryan Spann losing this fight. But with that said, like, these are two big dudes. These are two big dudes that are going to go after it. They're going to throw hard, and I guess Guskov's live for that reason. But like I said, Ryan Spann's just so much better. He's fought so many more better guys. Like, he's out there, you know, fighting guys like Nikita Krylov, Anthony Smith twice, Misha Serkinov, Johnny Walker, you know, Devin Clark, Sam Alvey. I know it's Devin Clark and Sam Alvey, but those are a lot better than Zach Pauga. Zach Pauga. I mean, and by the way, Guskov went out there in his debut against Volkan Oezdemir, and that was a massive step up, and Volkan was only like -150 in that fight. He went from Volkan Oezdemir to Zach Pauga. That has to be like one of the biggest steps down in like UFC history. And he did go out there and beat Zach Pauga, but again, it's Zach Pauga, who I don't think has the best chin, and he did what he needed to do and got the first round knockout. I think it's another massive step up, and I think Ryan Spann crushes him here in the first round. And I think it's probably, could be a knockout, could be a sub. Like, if Ryan Spann gets his fight down to the mat, it is a wrap. Don't really trust Ryan Spann to do that, though. So yeah, I'm kind of leading like a club and sub here for Ryan Spann, but I think this fight does end in the very first round, one way or another. But I'll take Spann to get the first round submission. Moving on, we got the main event: Matheus Nicolau going against Alex Perez. We got Nicolau, 31 years old, 5'6" with a 66-inch reach, 19-3 and 1. And 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Alex Perez, 32 years old, 5'6" with a 65.5-inch reach, 24-8, and 2-3 in his last 5 fights. Nicolau is the favorite, opened up -180, currently -185. Perez opened up +155, currently +160. It's kind of weird seeing Perez back in there so quickly, because this is a guy in Perez who has like 1 fight or like 2 fights to last like 4 or 5 years. But he's only taken like a month off, whereas Nicolau's taken about a year off. So it's weird seeing Perez back in here, but he is. And yeah, it should be an interesting fight here, but it's a tough fight to call, in my opinion, because I think I've always been a really big fan of Nicolau. I think he's really good, but this is a guy in Nicolau who's just too low volume for my liking. He's such a great striker. He has really good power. Like, Nicolau has really, really good power, but he doesn't let his hands go that much. A lot of his fights have looked, you know, very lackluster. Like the David Dvorak fight was terrible. It was just terrible. Even like the Tim Elliott fight just didn't have much urgency in that fight. But yeah, when he does let his hands go, he's very good. He's very powerful, and then he has a black belt in BJJ. He's very good on the mat. But in this matchup, it's like, you know, Alex Perez, he's been submitted a million times, but Alex Perez does have elite takedown defense. We even saw it in the Machado fight, who I think Machado is a better wrestler than Matheus Nicolau. Matheus Nicolau's averaging about a takedown and a half per 15 minutes, so doesn't wrestle a ton. And even if he does here, is he going to be able to take down Alex Perez, who has like a 82% takedown defense? I'm not so sure. So I kind of feel like this fight's going to take place standing, and when it does, I do like the striking a lot of Nicolau, but it's the low volume that I don't really like. And on top of that, I like the power of Nicolau, but Alex Perez has never been knocked down ever. So it's a tricky fight, but I absolutely have to pick Nicolau. I just have some concerns. I have some concerns with the volume, with the chin of Nicolau. Like, Nicolau's been finished in all 4 of his losses, I believe, and I think or 3 of those losses. I think the majority of those come by knockout as well. I think he has like 3 knockout losses, which is little concerning, but at the same time, like, Alex Perez isn't some murderous power puncher. So I know he finished Jussier Formiga with leg kicks, but that's about it. So yeah, I'm gonna take Nicolau here. I feel like this fight could maybe disappoint a little bit, as sad as that's to say, just because of the way Nicolau fights. He's so smart. He's so good. He's so smart. He slows the fight down. He sets a slower paced fight, and that's what he does. So I'm taking Nicolau. I'm taking Nicolau to do the better work across 25 minutes and win this fight by decision. There you guys have it. Thank you so much for watching. If you guys could, leave a like on your way out. Subscribe to the channel as well. Check out Prize Picks. Use that promo code DFSBTN. And also check out DFSbythenumbers.com. Not sure I'm going to have a ton of action this week, but you'll find my articles, Prize Picks article, stat, all that good stuff on there. Best of luck, everybody, and enjoy UFC Vegas 91. We'll talk to you later. See you.